of Salem has some crappy rolls. That much is obvious by the amount of poisoners leaving the game on night 1. And with the last roll redesigns being more than a year ago, we're long overdue for an update to fix some of the garbage rolls we've had to put up with. Let's address some of those. Today we're talking about Framer. Framer is a Mafia deception roll with the ability to frame one target at night, which causes them to appear suspicious to sheriffs and render the Framer, Vampire Jester, Hexmaster result to investigators. Its last buff made its frames stay on a target until they are checked by one of these rolls instead of just that night. Yet, Framer is still massively underpowered. Here's how I would change it. Number 1, having a TI in the game needs to be a prerequisite for this roll spawning. What's the point of having a Framer on my Covenant All Any team if there's nobody around to see their frames? They effectively provide no ability to Mafia, and having any other random Mafia role would be better, since they can actually use an ability that Mafia can benefit from. Vampire Hunter doesn't spawn in games where there are no vampires, because it would make the role totally useless. Why is Framer spawning in games where there are no town investigatives? The counter-argument to this is that having a Framer die would confirm that a town investigative claim is real, but I honestly don't think this will affect much. It still doesn't tell you which TI claim is the real one, and there's almost always multiple of them in a game. If this was paired up with a janitor or forger, I could even see some cool plays happening where the death of a Framer benefits Mafia by confirming that another Mafia fake claiming a TI is real, when in reality the actual TI is dead and cleaned or forged. Number 2, if we're going to keep having Framers spawning in games where the only TI is a random tracker, then it needs to affect more investigative roles, not just Sheriff and Invest. Having a role that only affects 2 others is way too situational. I do like the idea of having a Mafia role that messes with TI results. It makes TI info fallible and gives evils a plausible defense if they're caught by a confirmed TI, but the execution here isn't great. A framed player should not appear as Psychic's good player in even night visions, and be put in the pool of evils that could appear in their odd night visions. Now, they're not guaranteed to appear in evil visions, but it's now a possibility. They should also appear to visit a random player to trackers and lookouts. I feel like anything that nerfs Lookout and Night 1 jailer meta would be healthy for the game, and having framed players look as if they didn't visit when they should have, or did when they shouldn't have, could better help Mafia counter it. Right now in jailer meta, framers visit the jailer so that not all the visitors can be confirmed by spies as town, but if framer functioned like this instead, they could use their ability in a helpful way while still throwing suspicion on the lookout's results. And speaking of spy, this is the only TI whose interaction with Framer I wouldn't change. Disguiser has the ability to make Mafia members appear as visited by Moth and hide their true visits, so we don't need another role that does the same thing. Leave it as is. Number 3, Framer should be unique. Having multiple of some Mafia roles is helpful. Double consort games, for example, are notoriously difficult to win against in ranked, but even with these changes, Framer isn't one of these cases, and I'll show you why. Let's assume we're playing a game where we're a Framer on a team with a Godfather, Mafioso, and other Framer. We'll take a very conservative number and assume that there are only 2 kills each night, one from us and one from a vigilante, jailer, serial killer, whatever else happens to be in the game, and that this other death can potentially be a Mafia member. We'll also assume that Town guilties someone every day and nobody disconnects. This model isn't perfect, but it illustrates an average game of TOS and the point I'm trying to make. Night 1, Day 2. Night 2, Day 3, Night 3. And as we can see, by the end of Night 3, the framers have run out of players to frame and are now virtually useless. Since frames can last all game and aren't a single night ability, there's no point of reframing somebody we've already visited. And as anybody who's ever played Janitor or Forger can tell you, it sucks to just sit around after you've used all of your limited use abilities. Having more than one framer would just be more of this. Making it unique would prevent this scenario. And just a quality of life change to add on to this, there should be an icon next to frame player similar to Arsonist or Hexmaster, so that framers don't accidentally pick the same target twice. I seriously don't know why this isn't already a thing. With these changes, Framer won't be the best Mafia role in the game, but at the very least, it'll be more than just an extra vote towards evil majority.